This movie will allow us to create a guessing game. So I'm going to be thinking of a number from 1 to 10. I want you to see if you can guess the number, and then we'll say if it's correct or wrong. So let's get started. We're going to create 3 scenes. In scene 1, we're going to say, I'm thinking of a number from 1 to 10, guess a number. Then we're going to create a button that says, click to see if we're correct. Scene 2 will be our correct scene with a play again button, and scene 3 will be wrong, try again, with a play again button. So let's get started. I'm going to begin by inserting a font into my cast by Insert Media Element Font. Pick a font that you would like to use. Now I'm going into my TextCast member, and I'm going to choose my imported font. Remember that the imported font has the star next to it. And let me begin with my typing. So I'm thinking of a number from 1 to 10. I'm going to change my color. Remember that you can do it either here in the tools or in your text inspector. Let me add another TextCast member. And then we'll do for our correct and wrong, try again. So those are our TextCast members. Now we need to create a field. So let's set up our scenes in our score, and then we'll add our field. So I'm going to my score. I can just shut my TextCast window. I see my TextCast windows, my TextCast members in my cast. Let's start setting up. In scene 1, click on my sprite, background transparent. That's good. Let's guess my number. Change my ink. I need to create a button here. Let's go ahead and do that. Remember to create the button. We go to our tools. Be sure to change default to classic. Here's our push button at the bottom of this list, and I'm going to say click to see if correct. Don't forget that to change the text of your button and the size of your button, you can go into the text inspector, but you need to see those slashes around the button in order for that to happen. So I'm going to go back and use my imported font because I want to. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So let's see how this looks. That's good for scene 1. Let's add our marker at the beginning of the scene. Remember, the marker bar is at the top of the score. We always put our markers at the beginning of our scene, and I'm just going to call this begin. And now I want to also set up my other markers while I'm here. So in frame 10, since I have my sprites being 5 frames long, I'm going to put my congrats. And in frame 20, I'll put my try again. So I've made my markers. Time to get my hold on current frame. So I'm going to go to my library. Do you remember where that hold on current frame is stored? Navigation. Drag it at the end of the scene. So remember, markers at the beginning, hold on current frame at the end. While I'm here, I'm going to set up my correct scene. Let's drag that right here. There's my background transparent. And stick that hold on current frame. Let's do try again. I wanted that wrong answer text. Let's put it up here. Change your ink. And another hold on current frame. Let's do our play again button. We only need one of them because both of them will be going back to begin. So I'm going to put my cursor in my second scene, back to my tools, and let's draw a play again. I'm going to move this. That's good. We'll just leave it right there. And if I want, since it's going to be the same button in two scenes, once I get this button finished, I can copy and paste this sprite to the next scene or simply have it visible for both scenes. Either way, it works. So there's my button. Let's finish up this button. We know we need two behaviors onto this button. One behavior is going to be my rollover cursor. Let's go grab it. Do you remember where that's stored? Animation, interactive. Any interactive element should have the rollover cursor change. I'll keep with the finger. I also want my jump to marker. Do you remember where that's stored? That's under controls. So I'm going down. Come on, there it is. Jump to marker. Where do I want to jump to? I want to go to begin. Hit OK. And now I've got my button working. So rewind and play. Look what I'm missing. I now have to put in my field. So up to this point, we have made all of the cast members you're used to creating. We've imported a font. We created text cast members. We created a button because we know we need to see if what they entered is correct. We also needed to set up our scenes with the hold on current frame and of course get our play again button. Does it work? There's my rollover. Hot diggity dog, it works. Let's get that one button that we created in our first scene with a rollover. So I'm going to drag and drop that behavior, this time from my cast, onto my button, and I'll keep with the default. So now we're ready to review how to create a field. Before we do that, let's save our movie. Always get into the habit of saving frequently, because you never know what's going to happen on our network. Navigate to your multimedia folder. I'm going to stick this in our interactivity file. I'm going to call it Guess a Number. All right, we're ready to create that field. The field button is also a part of the classic tools. The field button is located at the bottom next to the push button. We're going to click on our field entry. Click and drag and create a field. Now, the properties of this field are defined in the text inspector. So if we open up our text inspector, Control-T is the keyboard shortcut that would open up the text inspector. We can determine the font, the size, and even the text color and the alignment of the answer. So I'm happy with the choices that are made here. Feel free to change. I don't want that white box though. Well, do I? Your choice. If you didn't want the white box, all you'd have to do is change your ink to background transparent. Okay. Maybe I might want to change this font a little bit. I'm going to double click to get the slashes. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's make it 48. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. Now, remember that once you create a field, you want to make that field editable. You want to make the field open so the person can key in their answer. To do that, you select the field, go to the Property Inspector, and click on the Field tab. Here's the word editable. That is what you need to select. If you had more than one field on a page, you could make them tabbable. Don't forget, you have box shadow. So if you wanted to add a shadow and a box around it, you could, and you could pick how big you want it to be. I'll do that. Or you could put a border or a drop shadow. You can even change your margin. I'm just going to leave these to none. We now want to test our movie to see if the user will have the ability to enter in the data. So I'm going to rewind and play. Notice that my cursor is blinking inside the field. I can type a number. I'm pretty much ready to go. But if I was going to rewind and play again, notice that the number is still there. Do you remember the frame script that you have to add in order to erase the contents of that field? Let's put that in. So stop your movie. Now, we want to erase the content so when they play again, the number is not there. So we're going to go to frame 1 of the script channel. This is a frame script. Double-click in frame 1 of the script channel to open up the window. We want to change the word exit to enter because we want it to disappear right away. In order to erase the content of the field, we use the lingo script delete, D-E-L-E-T-E, space. Well, what are we deleting? We're deleting a field, so we spell field. Make sure it turns green. If it does not, then you need to check your spelling. Now you need to give the field a name. But did we give our field a name? No, we did not. So what I'm going to do is think of a name right now. I'm going to call it guess, G-U-E-S-S. That is my script. I got to remember guess because I'm going to have to name my field, guess. All right, close that out. Let's go to our cast member. Remember to name a cast. You click on the cast member, go to the top, and type in your name. Make sure that your name guess matches the spelling, including caps, with the way you spelt it in your script. Let's go test the movie. There it is. It disappeared. We will now create the random number, but before we do that, we're going to need to create an empty text cast member. Remember when we did the counter, we needed a text cast member to hold what the number was. So I'm going to go to my empty cast member 13. Click on the text tool. I'm just going to hit that space bar. I now have an empty text cast member in my cast member 13. Let's generate the random number. I'm going to do this in frame 2 of the script channel. If I wanted to, I could merge it with my script in frame 1, the script that deleted the contents of my field named guess, but I'm going to do it in frame 2 because I want to be able to generate the number separate. This will give you some ability to change this game up a bit. The way I'm generating the game is, if they get it wrong, it's going to regenerate a new number. If you wanted them to guess and then have the numbers 1 to 10, you could merge the fields, make an extra marker, and get this working in that way. All right, so I'm going to frame 2 of the script channel. Double click, let's open up, and I'm going to be using a variable here to hold my random number. So just like I did when I created a counter, I'm going to use the word global and come up with a name for my random number. And I'm just going to call it the num. That's my variable. Again, I want to generate this when we enter the frame. In order to generate a random number, we're going to be using a random function. We're also going to be writing a statement similar to that counter, counter equals counter plus 1. It's like a let statement. In this way, it's going to be the name of the variable, the num, and it's going to equal, and in this case, it's going to equal a random number. The lingo script is random. Put in parentheses, the digit that you have in the parentheses represents the number of digits that you would want to create. We said we're going to count from 1. Therefore, I want 1 to 10. My number is 10. It knows to begin generating an integer, at the number 1. If I wanted to change the start number, I could put a plus or a minus to determine what number to begin the random generation. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to see what that random number is while I'm playing the game, because it's going to make it a heck of a lot easier to test this out. So I'm going to store that in my empty text cast member. Now, remember that we used 13. I could give this cast member a name if you prefer, if you feel that that would be less confusing. Why don't we go ahead and do that? So I'm going to click on 13 in my cast. Let's call that rand for random. Okay. So if I have a cast member name that I want to point to, instead of using the number, you use the name. So we write member because it's our cast member. When we use a name, that name in quotations, and I called it rand for random. It's a text cast member, so dot text equals. Now, we want to convert the numeric value of the num to the alphanumeric value. Do you remember how we did that? We say string of and the variable. In this case, it's the num. That's it. I'm going to close this out, and when I rewind and play my movie, take a look at my cast. The random number that was generated was a 10. So we've created our random number. Now we have to see the number entered, which is guess. Does it match the random number 10? Guess is alphanumeric. Rand is alphanumeric. I can compare like fields. So now it's time to write a button script. When do I want to compare? When I click on the button. So let's stop our movie. I'm going to click on my button. I want to add a script. Remember why I like my Sprite toolbar? If I add my script using the Sprite toolbar, the handlers are already written for me. Again, if you don't see your Sprite toolbar, go up to that View menu and Sprite toolbar will appear. You have to have the score selected. View, there's my Sprite toolbar. All right, let's go back to our first scene. Let's make sure that our sprite is selected. That is the button. Let's go up to the Sprite toolbar, and I'm going to hit that down triangle, and I'm going to add a new behavior. In my new behavior, I want on mouse up. Okay, I can keep that. Not like when you were doing the counter where we wanted to count on mouse down. So I'm going to move my cursor up, and I need to define my variable. I'm using the variable the num. Global the num. Make sure that you spell it the way you've spelt it in prior scripts. Now we're going to ask ourselves a question. The most common question is an if statement. If is basic to any programming language. So if you've programmed before, this is not new. We're going to write the word if. If. And we're comparing our random number. So let's start with member, parenthesis, quote, and that was rand. Our random, where our random number was generated. It's a text cast member, so don't forget to define it. So if the random number equals, now we have to compare it to our guess, which is member, parenthesis, go ahead, write guess the way it appears in the cast. So take a look at it, make sure it matches. Guess, and parenthesis. That's also considered text because it's a field, but it's text. Well, if they match, what happens? Then go. What did we call the marker where it said congratulations? If you forget, Just go back to the score. I called it congrats. Go, congrats. Now, we have an if, also comes an else. So what happens if it does not match? Then we go to, what did we call it? Try again. So I'm going back to my script. Try again. Now, the last thing that we need to do is we need to end this if statement. So we type in end if. And when you hit the enter key, notice how it goes back a bit. You have just finished this movie. Let's try it out. Close everything, rewind, and type. Now, look in your RAND. Notice I generated a 6. I'm going to key in a 6. Let's see, does it go to the right scene? Yes, it does. Let's play again. It now generated a 5. Let's get it wrong. Let's type in a 3. Does it go to the try again? Yes, it does. So now you've created a guess a number game. Congratulations.